All right, after a threat from hurricane, then Tropical Storm Idalia last week, and with another storm building in the Atlantic, hurricane season is on the minds of many in our area. You may not realize it, but the uncertainty of it can significantly affect your mental health. So that's what Mary Jo is here to talk to us about this Wellness Wednesday. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Wonderful.
I'm getting there. I'm feeling a little stress and anxiety about storm season.
Absolutely.
And I mentioned that uncertainty is what it creates, and that's part of the difficulty with this, dealing with that uncertainty.
Humans don't like uncertainty. We don't like things that we can't control. We certainly don't like things that we can't predict and plan for, and it just inherently causes us a lot of anxiety and stress.
Okay, so it presents challenges to prepare with lack of control.
Right. You're preparing with uncertainty and unknown. You're having several contingency plans. And then you don't even know if what you have planned for is going to work out well. And so that inability to even put our lives in an organized fashion, that sort of internal chaos, is very distressing.
Because we like routines.
We
and
very
this
much like
disturbs
routine.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's disruptive to that.
Right.
And then, you know, you were commenting, we can see the Weather Center over there.
Yes.
And there's a little something forming out in the Atlantic that we're looking at.
And it makes me nervous thinking about it.
It makes you nervous thinking about it. And so that continuous cycle really can take a toll.
Well, because think about it, you're not just uncertain about you and your safety, but you're uncertain about work, your loved ones, all the things that's going to happen, you know, uncertain about, you know, my pets. I know my dog needed life-saving medication last week, and I was like freaking out like a lunatic. So it's not just uncertainty about us, but it's uncertainty about all the things in our lives.
And it can have an effect on our mental and physical health. It manifests both ways.
We have to remember that our body is experiencing our life. Nausea, headaches, lack of ability to sleep, stress, all of these things is the body holding on to tension. And what often happens is the last thing that we do is take care of our body when it's the first thing that needs attention.
Yeah. You know, I'm sitting here thinking I've had a little stress just during the show today. I was having some technical difficulties hearing with my earpiece. So, you know, you have stress from work, stress at home, and then stress of storm season. And then you add on top of that, now we provide a service to people because we want people to watch so that they know what's going on. But you sort of get in a pattern of watching it over and over again.
Correct.
Right?
You know, it's twofold. One, we know that overexposure to traumatic things have a secondary effect on us. And then it also does this weird thing where it distorts your concept of what an emergency is, because you're so used to it. You know, I work in a hospital. I certainly worked last week. And so when you just know that you're always in it, your automatic nervous system actually never settles down because you think that that's the norm.
That's just the norm. And I don't want to get in trouble with my bosses. We want people to watch in case of a storm. It's important to know for safety, but we're just talking about that repetitive
secondary
cycle.
effects of that.
All right, let's talk about some strategies for resiliency. We've talked about resiliency before, how important that is in so many different aspects
We got to keep going through things.
Yes. All right, so remind yourself that preparation is key, not control.
Let's set the expectations where we can actually manage the expectations. We can prepare, we can anticipate what we need, but we need to make peace with not having control.
Yeah, but we like control, Mary Jo.
I know, but it's just a myth.
Yeah, it's okay, we'll dive into that a little deeper later. All right, so find ways to prioritize critical parts of your routine.
Right, and so we know that when things happen, we can't keep the routine that keeps us well. But we can ask ourselves, what parts of this routine is really necessary, particularly sleep, taking your medication on time, and nourishing your body. Those three components are you're gonna be best served to find ways to maintain those pieces.
You got to pare it down a little bit.
You've got to.
Okay, and then tend to the physical impacts of stress for mental wellness.
Here's the deal. You can't physically feel terrible and be mentally well. We're a whole person. If your back hurts, if you're not sleeping, if you're nauseous, if you're having headaches, this is not the time to just pretend it's not happening. Your body will escalate It's physical responses to stress until you listen.
Okay, and then finally reflect on what went well
Yes.
to build confidence for future events.
I feel so strongly about this area.
Yeah.
So oftentimes after events, we break down what went wrong and what we're going to do differently.
Yes.
What we don't do is we don't actually debrief and process what went well. What did we do that went well? You know what? Because the thing about it is there's just as many lessons to learn when things go well. So we can see we are resilient, we can be confident, and we can continue to engage in the things that work. We don't just need to reflect when things went poorly.
That's a shift in your perspective there. Love that. Okay. We are going to talk more about, I know intellectually that control is a myth. I didn't love you saying it.
Attempting to control causes suffering. The control never existed to begin with. But again, that's just a little teaser.
Yeah, here's our behavioral health expert over here. All right. We'll talk about that some more, Mary Jo. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Tina.